share the Word of God. And I believe that I want to share a topic that touches, I think, every one of us in very deep ways. Many years ago, I wrote a song because of all the internal issues and conflicts that I was going through with what has gone in my life, the situations that I experienced in life, and where that took me. And as I was writing this message, I was finally able to understand that I am lovable, that we are lovable, that it doesn't matter where we come from, it doesn't matter where we're going, God loves us.
Yes.
It is us who draws away from Him. And at times, because of issues in our past, we step aside from the presence of God and our lives become a turmoil. And I want to share this song with you. And as you can notice, I am very emotionally today. So I ask that you will bear with me, have compassion on me today as I share this song with you. as an individual who has gone through a lot of things, and not only myself, but each and every one who is sitting in this audience today, in this church, has a story. Some of us do not have boats and trips and different exotic adventures. Some of us have had the grind. Some of us travel through muddy roads, and some of us are just barely hanging on. But I believe that through everything, that to be different or not normal has become one of the greatest trends around the world. Even today, in many countries around the world, it is a crime punishable by death if they find out that you are different. I have found out that one of the greatest conflicts that members like us have suffered discrimination, especially from branches of the conservative church. I want this morning to share the profound thoughts I had buried in my life for almost 40 years. When you grow up in an environment where everything is related with religion, it makes it even difficult for individuals like us to be able to be who we truly are or who we're meant to be. I knew I was different at the age of 3. Did not know what it was. My mother found out that as an early child I had a deformity in my spinal cord and I was required to go for swimming therapy. And because of that, I had to do swimming classes for the rest of my life, actually. As I continued growing in church, one of the main things that I learned, and this was drilled on us every day, is that God hates sin. I have read the Old Testament when I was a child, logically, the children's Bibles, and knew or had been convinced that my sexual identity according to the Bible was a sin. I was really scared growing unsecure and even felt guilty for who I was. That I was not truthful to myself and to others, and I could not understand why I loved God so much, and yet He hated me because of what I was. I grew up so confused, but somehow managed to in some way cope and live with my sexual identity and my faith. It is not easy when you grow in church and occasionally you are condemned for who you are. It took me many years to finally understand some of the passages in the Old Testament and some in the New Testament to finally understand that God never makes a mistake. It was not an error or a loophole in my conception that made me who I am today. The Word of God clearly states that it was He that formed me, and every one of us. It does not matter your religion, your race, your country of origin, or the passport you claim to have. Every individual that is born on planet Earth was formed by God.
Yes. Amen.
The prophet Jeremiah clearly says it, that the Creator knew us, that we were sanctified before we were born. So where do religions and denominations get the idea that those that are members of our community are hated by the Creator? Can God make mistakes? The simple and unedited answer to that question is no. We have been sanctified by the Creator. The prophet Jeremiah never says that we have been cursed by the Creator. And the Creator also has a plan for each and every one of us as well. Jeremiah 29:11 says, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plans to give you hope and a future." The next thing that we must understand, once we know that we are created with a purpose, that we have been sanctified and were formed by the Creator is that we are loved. Many of us have grown in church and have memorized Bible verses, either for some form of competition or maybe at Bible camp. Whatever the reason you memorize Bible verses, we fail to understand the true meaning of what they mean. Yes, we hear that the Creator loves us, but for some of us who did not grow up with a paternal influence or maternal influence or both, it is not easy to understand that someone who we can't even see, hear, touch can love us so much. The Word of God says that He loves us so much that He sent His Son to die for us. At times we have been led to believe that God cannot love someone like me. But then again, John 3:16 clearly defeats that, because it says that God so loved the world. It did not say that God loved only straight individuals, or that God chose a specific social group to love. No. The Word of God says that He loved the world. That includes you and me.
Yes.
When we are able to understand this simple truth, we realize that we have missed so much. And even some of us have left church because we were constantly criticized or condemned. What is my response once I understand these two true facts? The psalmist says it very clearly. I praise you because I am fearfully and wonderfully made.
Yes.
Your works are wonderful.
Yes.
I know that full well. Is there someone this morning in the house of God that can state the same thing today?
Yes.
At times I would wonder, while growing up in the orphanage in Ecuador, was I a mistake? Why did my parents keep me away? Many questions would come up in my mind. I was always put down because of my teachers. They always thought that I was dumb. And they always made it a point to remind me of that every day. Why God would create an individual not that intelligent? These were some of the many cries that I would pray at nights. At times it seemed that my eyes would dry up because of the many tears I would shed those nights. Understanding this third point would become crucial in my life. Hey, I've been ministering since I was very young. I went to Bible school, have read the Bible backwards and forwards, and yet all that knowledge could not enlighten the question I had had for so many years. I'm very thankful that God brought into my life my former spouse, who during the 10 years we were together taught me to love myself and to accept love.
Yes.
Because I grew up without that in my life. It was very difficult for me to understand that and to be able to accept that from people. Once I began to open these doors that had been shut and rusted out for many years, was I finally able to understand that I was lovable and that God loved me and that there were others who truly loved me, but I would not allow them in my life. In the same manner, I knew God loved me, but I never allowed the Creator to actually open my spiritual heart and accept the love that He had been offering me for so many years. When this finally happened, I understood that I was not a mistake, that I was not dumb, that I could accomplish greatness in life.
Yes.
Yes, I have made mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
I have fallen, and I have gotten up.
Yes.
But that would have not happened had I not understood the Word of God and actually believed it. The last thing that complements these 3 points is one of the most difficult ones for the community, because we are faced each day with ridicule, abuse, fun, and even physical harm. While in Ecuador, I became one of the first individuals to begin fighting for our rights. It was a crime until 2008. Punishable by prison, torture, and you could even be killed in the hands of the police or individuals who hated you. There was no complaining, and you couldn't even go to the authorities. I was beaten 2 times by the police, kidnapped once, tortured for 1 day, and my life threatened. God, how can I love people who may harm? How can you ask me to love those that have made my life miserable? There is just one simple answer to that. God commands us to forgive.
Yes.
The book to the Ephesians, chapter 4:32 states, "Be kind and compassionate
Yes.
to one another, forgiving each other, just as Christ God forgave you." It is easy to read, but how difficult to do,
Yes.
especially to those who have hurt us so much. We must be the first ones to actually show love and not hate to those that put us down, those that mock us and ridicule us. We have to be about that. John 13:35 says, "By this everyone will know that you are my disciples, if you love one another." So if we are professing to be children of God, then how will they know that we are his disciples? Thank you. It is to show them love, and also to love our community.
Yes.
The Word of God says, "A house divided cannot stand."
Oh, yes.
1 John 3:1 says, "See what great love the Father has lavished on us, that we should be called children of God." 1 John 4:7, "Dear friends, let us love one another, for love comes from God. Everyone who loves has been born of God and knows God." 1 John 4:8 says, "Whosoever does not love does not know God, because God is love." 1 John 4:16 says, "And so we know and rely on the love God has for us." God is love. Whoever lives in love lives in God and God in them.
Yes.
1 John 4:19, "We love because he first loved us."
Yes.
Galatians 2:20, "I have been crucified with Christ, and I no longer live, but Christ lives in me.
Yes.
The life I now live in the body, I live by faith in the Son of God who loved me and gave himself for me."
Yes. Thank you, Jesus.
Jeremiah 29:11 says, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you,
Yes.
plans to give you hope and a future." Jeremiah 31:3, "The Lord appeared unto us in the past, saying, I have loved you with an everlasting love. I have drawn you with unfailing kindness."
Yes.
And the most popular verse that we know by heart is John 3:16, "For God so loved the world that he gave his only Son."